hollow. There'll be some on top of the ridge and some slightly to our right, but the bulk will be from the road down into Buffer Hollow. Now switch to map 8. And you can kind of follow as we go down the Winds Ferry Road. If you look at your map, in big letters it says Pillow. Just follow us down the Winds Ferry Road. Now this map 8 is where the Confederates are retreating, but this gives us a good idea of how the fighting goes. Off to your right, you'll see some of these markers that were placed here during the post-World War or pre-World War II era. These are more unit markers in terms of who was here, as opposed to combat discussion type markers. But they give you a good idea of the terrain and in terms of the fighting. Now where we are now is about straight opposite where Buckner's line was, where we stopped there at stop 8 for a bit. So you can see the hollow. The Buckner's going to have to come off that ridge down into the hollow and up against some Union artillery that's in place on this side of the hill as well. So if you want to buy a house in Dover, you can live on this road and be right on a battlefield.
Very expensive?
No, not Dover. Stop here for just a second. It's up left or right. Okay. This is the road into Aaron Hollow. On the 13th of February, as McClernand's division is marching down this road towards Dudley's Hill, they start taking artillery fire from Manny's battery, which is on the opposite hill, several hundred yards off to our right. And violating Grant's orders not to bring on a general engagement, he will launch a brigade and a half assault down through the Aaron Hollow and on up to try to assault Manny's battery. And his boys are going to get shot to pieces. And this is one of the things where the grass catches on fire. They call a truce to try to save the Federal wounded. And at the end of the day, when Grant finds out about it, he kind of calls McClernand on the carpet because, again, he was not supposed to take on any kind of engagement. And basically what he's doing is explaining, well, I can't march my division down this road without getting shelled by those Confederate guns, so I wanted to eliminate the threat. The regiment that helped defend that area was the 10th Tennessee Irish under Hyman and Randall McGavock. Okay, go ahead. So we get an idea of how the terrain is. They're going to keep pushing down. Again, it's not a route, it's a slow, long push. And by the time we get down here to the end, it will be about 2:30 or so in the afternoon to 3 o'clock. And that's when Pillow will show up. By the way, Floyd's been gone the whole day. Nobody knows where Floyd is. So Pillow will show up and basically say, okay, everybody back to the ditches. We'll get our gear, and then we will start to move out. And that's when Buckner just starts beating his head against the nearest tree. Going, I'm working for idiots. Now the Federals build no earthworks on this battlefield until after it's over. Off to your right, if you can kind of see it, slow down at this side right here. If you can see it, that possibly is a Union artillery redoubt. We're not 100% sure. We've looked at it. The only one we know of is Dresser's Battery, which is on a hill across Indian Creek Valley, and I'll point out that hill as we turn down. This is the Bomb Lane position. This is it. This is where everything stops. Buckner is pushing within about 100 yards of this line. This is the last of the Federal lines. This is where Thayer's people are going to deploy. If you look on your map 8, you'll see Thayer, and you'll see Morgan L. Smith and Wallace's division. So this is where we are, is the Bomba Lane area. This is where the attack stops, and where Floyd will ride out, or stop Floyd, Pillow will ride out and start to order everybody back to the trenches. And then as they start falling back, the Federals will start launching a counterattack under Morgan L. Smith. He'll take over. Morgan L. Smith will be a division commander in the Atlanta campaign. Here he's commanding a light brigade of 2 regiments, the 11th Indiana Zouaves and the 8th Missouri Zouaves. And they will launch an attack using the Zouave rush tactics, which are completely different from your linear warfare tactics used by your regular line infantry regiments, which basically means they trot forward as the enemy brings up their pieces to fire. They hit the deck, the rounds go over their head, they pop up, and then they fire their own volley and then trot forward again, which is how the French Army trained after the Algerian War of the 1840s. That was why you had Zouave units in the Union Army and the Confederate Army. So this is an actual attack of a Zouave rush conducted by Morgan L. Smith. It's the only one I know of, certainly in this campaign, and in fact a lot of those Zouave regiments will not use those type of assaults during the war, particularly the 5th New York at 2nd Manassas, where they get chopped to pieces there by Longstreet. So they will start to push the Confederate line back, and they will shut the door. They'll get about to where the Forge Road was, where we were just a little bit ago, and by that time it will create a comedy of errors on the Confederate side, which we'll discuss more in detail when we get to the Dover Hotel. Go ahead.
Greg, is the Hinson House anywhere around here?
I can show you where it was. It doesn't stand.
Oh,
It's on Keel Hollow Road, just south of here. Jack Hinson was a notorious sharpshooter in this area. His 2 sons were killed by the Federals, so he went on a one-man war and basically shot over 50 Union soldiers, particularly officers. He was from this county. Now, if you look to our right as we make the right-hand turn, that's a new house. That's the Winds Ferry Road veering on to the right. And it goes, you can look at it on Google Earth, you can see it cutting through. This is land owned by a paper mill, and the road continues on through, and it hits the Keel Hollow Road. When the brigade leaves Fort Henry to come here, the Confederate Brigade under Hyman, they come down that very road. They march down the Winds Ferry Road and then take that right on into Dover. When we get down here to Indian Creek Valley, I'll point out where the 2 Confederate batteries were and see how they were covered by fire. And I'll point out the hill that Dresser's Union Battery is. They're an Illinois Light Artillery. Only confirmed Federal earthworks on the entire battlefield. And if you come down here and you want to do some hiking, there's some pretty good hikes where you can get up to both Dresser's and Manny's Battery, which is off directly to our right. That's a good thing. Okay, the hill off to our front, across the Indian Creek, which is down below us, is where Dresser's Battery was posted. Federals had smoothbores here. They had Napoleon's 1842s and a handful of rifled James guns. I believe Dresser's Battery had the rifled James guns, so they could fire quite a good distance, quite accurately. Clear to the right. So on the hill up to our right is where Manny's Battery is going to be, the place you can pull off to make the hike, which is Park Service property. You'll see coming up. And then on the left is Graves Battery, so you can on the hill up there. So you can now see how the Confederates will basically cover this valley just by the fire of those 12 guns. They don't post any infantry except on the slopes of these hills. There's none in the valley, on the flat part of the valley. Here's your marker here that you can take the path up to Manny's Battery. And then you can walk up to Graves Battery from this side as well. This is the Dover Square, if you will. The courthouse was right in the middle of the square, and the roads went around it. That's the one that was burned down by the 71st Ohio. The post-war courthouse was built there too. And then when they were widening Highway 79 to 4-lane the whole way some years ago, they decided to move the courthouse off to the left so that you could have truck traffic coming through this area. So they don't have to detour around the courthouse, which is in the middle. This site right here figures in when Forrest and Wheeler attacked Dover in February 1863 in the third Battle of Dover, if you will. This is the first Battle of Dover, then August 62 is the second, and then we get the third Battle of Dover in February 63. That's when they go up against the 83rd Illinois. Now we have a bit of a discussion. Turn left here. We have a bit of a discussion in terms of, is this the road out to Charlotte or is it the road off Church Street? I maintain it's the Church Street road because I've got two period maps, one drawn by an 83rd Illinois soldier that shows the road to Charlotte tying in with Church Street, which is 2 blocks the other direction. So when Dave Roth did the blue and gray on this, he sent me the preliminary maps, and I made a point to point out that that's not where the escape actually took place based on the other 2 maps that I cited. There's a bus area in there. If you want to loop, or actually the bus area is right here, right? Just back up, and that guy's just going to have to move. Well, this man here will talk about the importance of the Dover Hotel, both in the surrender and also the Confederate supply head.
Greg, were there any wartime survey maps and such done in this area?
There's I'm trying to think, the oldest one I know of is a slightly post-war map where the roads are still completely intact, and it argues in my favor.
Yeah.
And the Dover Hotel is open, and you have to see the absolutely hilarious movie. You can bring your maps in if you want to.